Hello everybody, just while we're waiting for the last people to arrive, I'm just going to play you a couple of promotional videos from Cambridge and then we'll get started with the presentation.
Cambridge International is the world's largest provider of international education.
Sorry about that.
Cambridge International is the world's largest provider of international education programs and qualifications for 5 to 19-year-olds, from primary through to secondary and up to university.
It's just taught me to learn independently and to research independently and to think on my own and based on my own initiative.
We offer world-class international education through high-quality curriculum, assessments and support for teachers.
What I find attractive in what I might call the Cambridge approach is that, first of all, there is content, but there is a primary emphasis on the analysis of the content, and maybe most importantly, being expressive about the content, being able to communicate it.
We're a not-for-profit organisation and a part of the University of Cambridge. We share the same educational values and the university's commitment to excellence in education. Our qualifications are internationally recognised by the world's universities and employers, providing learners with a global passport to success. To find out how we can work together, contact our customer services team.
Cambridge International has over 100 schools in South Africa, ready to help your child discover new skills and develop a love of learning through an engaging and globally relevant curriculum based on leading research. We equip them with all they need to achieve in the wider world, and with over 10,000 schools in 160 countries, your child, wherever they are, will be ready for the world. Find a Cambridge International school near you. Visit cambridgeinternational.org.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the presentation on the A-level stream for 2022. I'm going to start off, just before I get started, just to say that the way this will work is I'm going to do a presentation on the A-level stream and what it's all about. And then after we're finished, we'll have plenty of time for questions. If you could just put your questions into the chat box or just type up your questions and we'll go through them at the end of the presentation and we'll deal with each and every one of them. So first of all, just to tell you a little bit about Cambridge Assessment International Education, or Cambridge International for short. It is part of the University of Cambridge and it's the world's largest provider of international education programs and qualifications. Cambridge International A-levels are internationally recognized for their high standards, and the Cambridge International A-levels are considered equivalent to UK A-levels. They're recognized for entry in over 1,400 universities worldwide, including all UK universities and all US Ivy League universities. A survey of university admissions tutors at the world's universities. In that survey, 98% of them said Cambridge programs give students excellent preparation for university and help them succeed at university. And all of them said Cambridge students think logically, present coherent arguments, and have in-depth subject knowledge. A study in the USA indicated that Cambridge students were more likely to enroll in university, showed a strong preference for highly selective institutions, and tended to graduate more quickly than other students. And a little more about them. The Dean of Admissions at MIT is quoted as saying that Cambridge students are very well prepared for their curriculum, and they find that they have a lot of confidence, but also that they have good, deep subject knowledge and the ability to think critically. And the Dean of Undergraduate Admissions at Duke University in the USA said that Cambridge International AS and A levels prepare students well for university because they've learned to go into a subject in considerable depth. There's that ability to really understand the depth and the richness and the detail of a subject. So what are Cambridge International AS and A levels? They involve advanced study in areas of particular interest. In other words, pupils study fewer subjects in more depth. They develop deep subject knowledge, conceptual understanding, and higher order thinking skills. And they're structured as a 2-year course, with the AS level making up the first year of the A level and extended to the full A level in the second year. So what are we offering? We are offering pupils the opportunity to take a full A levels course instead of the IEB Matric in grade 11 and 12. So it's a complete shift from one to the other. The reason that we're doing that is to allow our pupils who want to study overseas the opportunity to apply for and be accepted to the top international universities of their choice, and to stretch and enrich our pupils academically through more advanced, rigorous, and in-depth study in areas of particular interest. And I would probably add a third point to that. For pupils who intend to remain in South Africa, it gives them a competitive edge once they're accepted at the South African university of their choice. So the question then is it better than the IEB Matric? The answer is no. It's important to emphasize that both the IEB Matric and Cambridge A levels are highly regarded worldwide. They just serve different purposes. The A levels are more focused and they provide easier access to international universities, whereas the IEB Matric is broader and more suitable for applying to South African universities. You could think of it in a way that A levels are 1 meter wide and 2 meters deep, whereas the IEB Matric is 2 meters wide and 1 meter deep. The structure of our A-level stream is as follows. In grade 11, pupils generally take 4 AS level subjects and 1 IGCSE, and those are chosen to fulfill South African university exemption requirements. In order to go to a South African university, a pupil needs an exemption certificate, and so the subjects need to be chosen in order to get that certificate. 4 AS levels plus an IGCSE in a second language is what is needed for exemption. Top pupils can take a 5th AS level subject if they want to, and those students with immigrant status don't have to do the IGCSE second language if they don't want to. It's also worth pointing out that those second languages are much wider than the ones on the IEB. You can do pretty much any second language, except obviously one of the important ones, which I'm going to discuss in a little while. Those not planning on studying in South Africa at all can choose to take any 4 AS levels, provided they agree in writing that they are not meeting exemption requirements. And then once the grade 11 year is complete, they take 3 of those AS levels done in grade 11 forward as A levels in grade 12. So only 3 subjects in grade 12. And top pupils, again, may have the option to take a 4th A level subject, subject to availability and obviously on their academic ability. And those A level subjects should be chosen to fulfill the requirements for overseas universities and faculties of choice. More about the structure of our A-level stream. We do have minimum entry requirements for the A-level stream. And the reason for that is that the transition to A-levels is very challenging from grade 10 to grade 11. And poor results in A-levels are probably of less value than a good IEB Matric, to be honest. We expect those who are joining the A-level stream to have a 70% aggregate in the mid-year grade 10 exams. We will consider those with an aggregate above 60%, but they would have had to demonstrate a strong work ethic and an ability to work independently. And there may be some subject-specific entry requirements as well. For example, if you're wanting to do physics or chemistry, you would probably have to be doing fairly well in physical science already. couple of other things. All of our Cambridge exams are written in October or November, so we keep the same academic year that we have here. The academic day also remains the same. The subjects are timetabled similarly to IEB subjects, but not exactly the same. And there are also free periods available for tutorials or for independent work in the library. There are also more lessons timetabled per subject in grade 12 because there's only 3 subjects. There are also more free periods available to keep working independently. And that independent work is really important, and it's a key differentiator of the A-level stream. A couple of other things just to mention on that is that pupils, boys and girls on the A-level stream, remain a full part of the life of the school. They still take part in extramural activities, sports, house events, and so on, like everybody else. And they also remain part of their house tutor group. That's very important, to remain integrated within their peer group in the house. And we do occasionally take them out of those tutor periods just for an A-level meeting, but in general, they stick with their house tutor groups. Right, the subjects that we offer in grade 11, which is the AS level. As I said, pupils take 5 subjects. They all do English language and literature, which is in option 1. That is an AS level only subject. And the reason that we offer that is it's a requirement for the South African exemption to have English. What it also does is it provides good grounding for anybody who wants to take either English language or English literature or both as an A level in grade 12. Option 2 is the IGCSE second language. Those are the 3 subjects that we offer: Afrikaans, French, and isiZulu. You'll notice there that isiXhosa is a missing. That's unfortunately because Cambridge does not offer it. And so that is one thing to consider if that is your grade 10 second or FAL at the moment. The Zulu is an alternative option to that, but it is certainly not the same. It's the equivalent of understanding French and doing an exam in Spanish. Mathematics is pretty much compulsory. There is an option for exemption purposes to take biology instead of mathematics, but you would need to consider that very carefully in terms of university and faculty requirements before choosing that option, because in most cases maths is of some sort is a requirement. And then pupils would normally choose 2, or if they're really strong, 3 from those options in option 4, 5, and 6. Biology, chemistry, and physics are fixed in those options. If all of the people who are applying for one of those other subjects wants to take it in a different option and it works for everybody, we would certainly consider moving it to one of the other options. We've done that before with history, for example. A couple of those that I just want to highlight as well. First of all, art and design is very much a specialist subject. It tends to lean more towards art than design. And certainly there's a big painting and drawing component of it. Art and design is something for people who are passionate about art, because it involves a huge amount of after hours time building up a suitable portfolio. So people should only consider art and design if that is something they're passionate about. The second one that I want to highlight is economics. Economics is a subject we haven't offered before. We've put it there in option 5. It's a subject we are willing to offer, probably with an external teacher, but it would require enough interest to make it worthwhile to offer it. So if there's sufficient interest for economics, then we will certainly consider offering that in option 5. And then the third one, just to mention specifically, is drama in option 6. Drama is a subject that requires group work, and so there also needs to be a minimum number of candidates in order to offer drama successfully. There are other subjects that we don't offer. IT is one that comes up quite often. Business studies, accounting also come up quite often. The reason for us not offering those is that they, first of all, we don't have the staff complement to offer that. And secondly, they are subjects that are not a requirement for entry to university or to faculties anywhere in the world. I'm going to go through quite a few things to consider about the A-level stream. First of all, just to say that pupils should consider the A-level stream if they're intending to study overseas after school, or if they would prefer to study fewer subjects in greater depth in grade 12. And they should perhaps continue with the IEB if they intend to study at a South African university after school, and they're concerned that they might struggle with the added rigor and depth of the A-level courses. There is an extra cost attached to taking the A-level stream. This year, the cost is indicated there, and for 2022, the cost will be of a similar order to that. And then very importantly, once pupils have started on the A-level stream, there is no going back. They will not be able to change back to the IEB matric. And we are going to be pretty strict on this. The reason for that is that to go back to the IEB means catching up 6 subjects because they're completely different. And it also has a major impact on class sizes and teaching allocations, and is quite disruptive to the other classes. Subjects are offered subject to sufficient demand. I've mentioned some of the subjects that applies to already. We won't generally offer a subject where there's only 1 or 2 people wanting to take it, although we'll certainly consider it. Where there's a maximum number of places for a particular subject, and I don't expect this to happen, I don't expect us to be oversubscribed, but if we are, we'll take the top candidates based on previous academic performance for those subjects. We're often asked about whether being in the maths extension class is a requirement. I must emphasize that it's really not a requirement to be in the extension class in order to do A-level maths. All the content for AS level maths is covered in grade 11 right from the beginning. And any content for South African MBTs, that's probably what is covered in the extension class, and that's caught up very easily in grade 11 and 12 if someone wants to write the MBTs. In terms of the teachers, we'll only confirm the teachers for each of the subjects at the end of this term. Most, if not all, subjects have got experienced A-level teachers already. We've been running this for a few years now, and all A-level teachers have completed extra training through Cambridge. Another couple of things to consider. First of all, this is quite a big one. The grade 11 year on the A-level stream is challenging. There's a very big step up from grade 10 to grade 11. And particularly in the first term, many pupils find the workload and the difficulty of the work quite overwhelming. And that's why resilience and determination and a strong work ethic is really important, because they've got to get through that storm in the first half of the grade 11 year. And if they can do that, then the reward is really worthwhile. Good results in grade 11 mean a really nice year in grade 12 with only 3 subjects. So successful A-level candidates need to have a very strong work ethic and the ability to work independently. They must have some self-discipline, academic self-discipline. They must be determined and resilient. A good academic ability is important, and they need to have some critical thinking skills, although those are certainly developed in the A-levels. And then I think it's also quite important that they have a deep interest in the subjects that they're intending to take at A-level. And this is where, particularly in the sciences, we see that this happens. People who are very interested in sciences, you really enjoy the A-level stream because you get to focus in really in depth in those subjects. Some advantages of taking A-levels: they're internationally recognized as the premier university entrance qualification. A-levels qualification streamlines the process for admission to overseas universities. You can still go overseas with an IEB, but it's much more streamlined with A-levels. Pupils benefit from in-depth, rigorous university-style approach to learning, which can only help them when they get to university and they're used to it already. And if you stay at a university in South Africa, that's a big head start because you're well ahead of everybody else going into first year. Some disadvantages. For grade 11 and for matric exemption, you need to carefully choose your subjects. There are specific faculty requirements in South Africa. Different universities have very different requirements. So the entry requirements for some South African universities can be more challenging than with an IEB matric. I would certainly highlight UCT in particular in that respect. And the step up from grade 10 to Cambridge AS and A-levels is very challenging. And then very importantly, we do need a decision about whether you're going to change to the A-level stream by the end of this term. The reason for that is that we need to order textbooks from overseas, we need to finalize the classes, and we cannot do that until everything is finalized. So we do that finalizing at the very beginning of the 3rd term in September. Just some things to consider in terms of some of the achievements of our A-level students in the last 2 years. Our A-level group that finished matric at the end of last year had a pass rate of 100%. 98% of their results were A stars, which is over 90%, to C, which is over 60%, and 94% of them achieved those symbols for all of their subjects. More than 3/4 of our A-level results were over 80%, so A's or A stars, including 38% A stars. All of our results for A-level biology, chemistry, and English literature were A stars or A's, so distinctions for all of them. And some of our pupils who did particularly well, Michael Velosa was accepted to read a degree in politics, philosophy, and economics at Oxford University. Matthew Schaefer has been accepted to study mechanical engineering at Imperial College London. Hayden John has been accepted to study medicine at the University of St Andrews in Scotland. And we just found out this week that James Stadler, who wrote AS levels in grade 11 last year, achieved the top result for AS level chemistry in South Africa. Here are some of the things that some of our pupils have said about the A-level stream. They find that the work is interesting, relevant, and engaging, and they do enjoy the fact that there are fewer subjects, so they're more specialized. I know some of the more intelligent ones have said in the past that if you apply yourself, it's not too difficult because everybody does it in the UK. I still think that a high academic ability and work ethic is important there. They enjoy more independence and they enjoy the free periods, and they're used to working independently. For them, online learning last year was really not a problem. They were so used to working independently already. The exams are quite a lot shorter. So a normal Cambridge exam is less than 2 hours, whereas IEB exams are usually 3 hours, and they tend to be more spread out. There's lots of easily accessible resources because this is an international qualification. There are many resources available. Some of the classes are small, but not all of them are. Certainly in grade 11, the subjects that everybody does are normal class sizes. There are good experienced teachers teaching A-levels. They provide easier access to overseas university. And certainly some of them said that it was a big advantage to write off their second language in grade 11. I have put this into the booklet that I sent you, places to go for more information. All the links are in the booklet that I emailed. I also highly recommend the Cambridge Recognitions database, which tells you exactly what the requirements are with A-levels for any faculty in any university in the world. And we will post this information on the website in the next week. All right, and I think that's everything that I wanted to go through. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to go ahead. Let me do that. I see we do have a couple of questions already. Cecilia has asked, can you take 6 AS level subjects? The answer to that is you absolutely can, but you need to be very strong to do that. To do 6 subjects is a very big ask. You need to be very dedicated to do that. Rob has asked if you want to do physics, chemistry, and economics, is that possible? What I would suggest there is that you enter that on the application form, and we will see what we can do about rearranging the subjects depending on what other people ask for. We'll perhaps have a backup option there as well, but we will see how we can fit that in if that is what he wants to do. Similar question from Glenn, can you study both physics and geography? Again, those subjects that are indicated with an asterisk are provisionally in those options, but they're not finally in those options. If you're wanting to do physics and geography, enter that on the application form and we'll see what we can do. But please have a backup on there as well in case we can't. A question about how many students are on the program at the moment. Our grade 12 class last year was 16 pupils, 13 boys and 3 girls. Our grade 12 group this year is a little smaller. We have 11 boys and 1 girl. But our grade 11 group this year is quite a lot bigger. We have 12 boys and 7 girls. So that's 19 in total. Busi has asked, please clarify the problem with UCT and A levels. It's not so much a problem, it's just that the entry requirements for UCT are quite stringent because they base their entries in some faculties on 6 subjects rather than 5. So if someone is set on, for example, doing business science at UCT, they may need to consider taking 6 subjects. It's not an absolute requirement, but it'll slow your entry into UCT because the A levels will make up the extra points. In fact, maybe what I can do just while we're on that, let me see if I can show you an example of that. I hope you can all see that. This is from the UCT prospectus, and this is the requirements for people with A levels going into a Bachelor of Business Science. You can see there the guaranteed admission requirement is 53 points. Now 53 points with just AS levels and 5 subjects is very difficult to get to, because you get 8 points for an A and AS level and 6 points for an IGCSE, and that leaves you really struggling to get to 53. However, A levels are worth 10 points, and so you can quite easily reach that with the extra points you get for A level. All right, and then they've given some minimum subject requirements there as well, an A level C or an AS level B for maths, A level E for English, or an AS level D for English. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that guaranteed admission target of 53 is quite difficult to get with AS level only. To reach that, yeah, they do double some subjects, but it's still very difficult to reach. That's the problem with UCT. It's certainly not insurmountable. If you look at the Stellenbosch one, you can see the grading table, the international conversion table there. So you can see AS levels over here. An A on an AS level is equivalent to a 90% awarded by Stellenbosch University, whereas an A on A level is also 90%, but you can get 95 for an A star. And a B is actually worth 85% on A level at Stellenbosch. I hope that answers the question on that one. If you want to drop FAL in grade 11, could you still end up going to a South African university? You do need to have the FAL at IGCSE level in order to go to a South African university, because it is an exemption requirement. The only way that you could drop it and still go to a South African university is if you have immigrant status, which means that you only started school in South Africa after the beginning of grade 7. Otherwise, you will have to do 1 year of the FAL. However, it is only 1 year and it's at IGCSE level, which is at a level lower than AS level. In fact, it's conversational in most cases. So as long as you can understand the language, it's actually not very difficult. If you have immigrant status for languages, can you add an additional subject? You most certainly can. That's not a problem at all, provided it fits obviously into the options that we are offering. Okay, so there's a question here from Julian. He says, coming from the UK and having done A-levels myself, I like the broader coverage of the SA Matric. The A-level subject choices being offered seem to cater more for sciences. Do you think that A-levels will limit university subject choice in SA or internationally in humanities subjects? We do find that people who join the A-level stream here do tend to be the people who are leaning more towards sciences. By adding economics, we're trying to balance it a little bit more with humanities, and certainly those humanities subjects we're willing to move around. I don't think that your university subject choice, or internationally or in South Africa for that matter, would be limited by doing A-levels. For example, we had a pupil last year who took English literature, English language, and history as his 3 A-levels. He's going to study economics at a university in the UK, and it certainly didn't limit him in any way. And I think given that you're only choosing 3 subjects, I mean, there's a number of humanities subjects to choose from there. The 2 Englishes, the economics, the history, the geography, the drama, the arts and design. There's plenty to choose from there. If you have any specific queries in terms of humanities subjects, please do send them to me separately. I'm happy to discuss it or have an online discussion with you as well. Do you need to be doing the subject in grade 10 to take it at A-levels? I think that depends quite heavily on the subject. If you are doing, if you're wanting to take physics or chemistry, you really need to have been taking physical science. For a subject like geography, we have had people who've taken A-level geography, having not done it in grade 10 and doing it, and that's been successful. So as I say, it does, geography absolutely is an example where that is possible. Some more questions here. Is there a difference between business study and economics? They're both commerce subjects, but they have different focuses. I'm not an expert on economics, but certainly economics, I think, is the one of the commerce subjects that I think is most widely recognized in terms of A-level subjects, and that's why we've chosen that as the one to offer. I know also, though, that Cambridge have said that they don't like people doing too many commerce subjects. In fact, they've gone as far as to say universities see people who've done business studies, accounting, and economics as their A-levels as having only done 2 A-levels. Tegan asks, can you drop English and matric? Most certainly you can. It's only a requirement for South African exemption purposes at AS level. So yes, you can certainly drop English and matric. I've clarified the problem with UCT and A levels. Mr. Richard has asked, in the A level, there will not be a second foreign language, for example, German, but in the matriculation that is possible. We do actually have someone doing German, and that is a possibility at IGCSE. So if there's a subject that you want to do as a second language that's not one of those ones listed, we can certainly discuss it. It's still a possibility. There may be an extra charge for that, just in terms of getting an outside teacher to do that. And that is what we're doing at the moment for somebody with German. So there is someone doing IGCSE German this year. Kirsty says, so if my son's current FAL is Xhosa, you cannot do A-levels. He's definitely going to study overseas. He can do A-levels. There's nothing stopping him. There's 2 things, though, that he's going to have to make a decision on. The first is, if he wants to keep the option of South African universities open, he's going to have to convert to either Zulu or Afrikaans in next year in order to meet that requirement. If he's going overseas, and he's definitely studying overseas, well, then meeting South African exemption requirements is null and void. It doesn't matter. If you don't have a 70% average, the 70% average is a benchmark. If you're close to a 70% average, we will consider you, depending on your proven work ethic and academic self-discipline. Can South African students do French in option 2? Yes, they can. One of the nice things about this is that it doesn't have to be a South African language as the second language. French will be absolutely acceptable for exemption purposes. If you take up five subjects, do you start it immediately? I'm not entirely sure I understand that question. We'll start, we start the A-levels program at the beginning of next year in grade 11. Can one straddle IEB and A-levels? No, you can't. You have to choose one or the other. It's not possible to do a little bit of both. The AS level timetable works on the same timetable as the IEB, so the same length of lessons and the same number of lessons a day. They sometimes line up with the IEB subjects, but not always. What we generally have is 8 lessons a cycle for the AS level subjects and 6 lessons a cycle for the IGCSE. I think we add an extra one in for maths. And then whichever AS level subject someone is not taking, they have a free period during that time. And then just to reiterate there, the choice is either IEB or A-levels. You can't do one A-level subject. We don't generally offer that anymore, no. Just going back to the other chat there. Will IT ever be available as a subject? At this stage, we're not looking at offering IT, and the reason is that we only have one IT teacher who doesn't have the capacity to do it. So at this stage, it doesn't look like we'll be offering IT. So just to confirm, my son will not be going to a South African university. I've already answered that. You can do A-levels provided you either convert to Zulu or Afrikaans, or you put all your eggs in the overseas basket and don't get a South African exemption. Is English language offered through to A-level, or is it a joint subject with literature? The subject that we're offering in grade 11 is the combined AS literature and language subject. That subject is AS level only. However, it provides all the grounding needed for A-level language or A-level literature. And those who want to take either of those subjects forward in grade 12 at A-level are able to do that and have the tools to be able to do that. Yes, in the UK, literature is more common than language, and we do offer A-level literature in grade 12 for those who want it. Another question here, could I take A-levels and still attend IEB classes for one subject if there's no clash? I suppose in theory you could, but I don't think it would be very wise. First of all, I think there would be a clash. And secondly, you're not going to be able to write exams in both A-levels and IEB, so there's not a lot of value in doing that. Right, those are all the questions, I think. Oh, here's one more. So there's no possibility they consider COSA as a FAL. The problem is not on our side. The problem, unfortunately, is Cambridge themselves. Cambridge doesn't offer COSA at all. We have approached them about offering it, but unless they have a minimum international take-up for the subject, they're not going to offer it. And even on the IEB, COSA is quite small, unfortunately. So you're also not allowed to combine qualifications, certainly in South Africa. So you wouldn't get an exemption certificate for doing AS levels on A levels and then also on IEB. That wouldn't be acceptable as a combination. So that's unfortunately why we can't offer it as an FAL on the A level stream. Can you get South African university exemption if you don't have a language? Yes, you can get conditional exemption just like you can on the IEB. And that conditional exemption is based on immigrant status. So the same immigrant status applies for exemption in South Africa, whether you're doing A levels or whether you're doing IEB. Would participating in sports and extramural activities be negatively affected if the boys go for AS? It depends on their self-discipline and their work ethic. We've had boys who have been very successful on A levels, have come out with straight A's on A levels and AS levels, and who were first 8 rowers or first team cricketers, and they managed it absolutely fine. We had many who were full-time musicians in the orchestra and the choir and so on. It's very possible to do it, but it requires self-discipline and it requires organization. Is it possible to take an online A-level course for a subject that the school doesn't offer and still take the exam? As a general rule, if you are doing A-levels as your leaving qualification from St. Andrews, we're not happy for you to do it online. That would be like suggesting that you can do an IEB subject by correspondence essentially and take it as, because we don't have any control over that and any input on an online course, we wouldn't be happy with that. They are quite demanding courses, and to do them on your own online is generally not going to be very wise. If there's a course that you are wanting to take and we're not offering it, please do talk to me about it. Even if it's IT, we can still talk about it and see what possibilities there are. But as I say, for IT, we're constrained by the fact that we only have one IT teacher at the moment. All right, I think I've been through all the questions here. There's another one. Can you go to classes for fun without writing exams or tests if there's no clash? I'm assuming you're talking about going to IEB classes. Absolutely. As long as the teacher is happy for you to be there, I don't see any reason why not. But as I say, I think that those free periods are ones that you should be using for work and to get ahead rather than enjoying something that you're not writing an exam in. Are there any other questions? If you choose to do A levels and then change your mind later in the year, as I said, once we get into next year, unless it's an exceptional circumstance, we wouldn't want you changing back because of the disruption that it will cause not only to your own learning, but to the classes as well. In terms of this year, at this stage, filling in the survey and indicating that you're interested is not a commitment. I think once the formal application forms are in and we've accepted your application and you've accepted the offer of a place, then I think it becomes a discussion about whether you can change your mind later, but that's much later in the process. Even after you've put in an application form, you're not obliged. Okay. Any more questions? There's one. Can you start a 5th subject at the start of A levels? Okay, now I understand it. Yes, you most certainly can. If you want to do 5 AS levels instead of 4, you would start it at the beginning of the year. It just means that you would lose your free periods because that 5th subject slot would go into the free periods. Mr. Smith or Dr. Gens, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to contribute or add to what we've said.
No, I think I'm good. No, I think I'm good. I think everything was covered, Graham. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have anything to add. Then maybe just to understand that there was a comment about everybody in the UK does it, and these subjects are difficult, so I don't think everybody in the UK does physics and chemistry and maths. They do A levels, but you know, the subjects we offer are really demanding. So you know, the life sciences and things like that, you've really got to have a deep interest and deep commitment, and you're going to be spending hours and hours of time working by yourself or working with others, but you're going to be working on your A levels, and so you really do need to have a passion for the subjects. Not every UK child does physics. I don't think that's true at all. I think it's a very small percentage, or maths for that matter. So anyway, good.
Thank you. Just a comment from Dima Katso. Thank you very much for that. And then, so you're not prejudiced in terms of points at other universities except for UCT. In other words, you won't come short. As I've said there, I think the entry requirements for South African universities are a little bit more demanding. But remember that people who are on the A-level stream are academically able already, and provided, I mean, you know, provided you get a decent result on AS level, it's still going to get you into where you want to go. To add to that, is A levels as acceptable in America and Australia as in the UK? Absolutely. They're very, very happy. In fact, everywhere around the world, they know what A levels are and they know exactly how to benchmark them. So they're always very happy to accept them in any country in the world.
Yeah, and I see there was another question about IB. You know, is it? You know, up until 2 or 3 years ago, our girls and boys were getting into overseas universities. You know, I know that Oxford and Cambridge, it's not really possible without A levels, but certainly the Edinburgh loves the IB syllabus as well. A very interesting thing, the American universities quite enjoy South African broad-based education. If I have to write letters of recommendation to an American university, they want to know about the community engagement. There's lots of sports bursaries. If you're a good debater or a musician, there's opportunities in American universities. And so the IB, you know, children have gone into many universities, Canadian universities as well, Australian universities. Brown, there was a boy who got into Brown University. And so the IB doesn't mean that you're not going to get into overseas universities at all. And certainly I know that, you know, Edinburgh, York, Exeter, all those very nice little town universities, our boys go and girls go, and they do very well there. The applications for UK universities, I find I need to be very specific if I'm writing a letter of reference to say that your son is well suited to studying this particular course, and they like us to be able to confirm that you've got a great aptitude for engineering or something, and you've done very well in physics, and you will be a very good engineer or studying engineering. I mean, the British universities also like that you've got other interests, but they're more particular about the narrow focus. So the IB matric works very well, and don't feel that if you don't get into the A-level program that your chances of overseas universities are diminished. It's not true at all.
Yeah.
As you say, I mean, you know, Michael Velosa got into Oxford, but I mean, there's millions of British children trying to get into Oxford that don't get in. So you're not going to get into, you know, the Ivy Leagues or those really top universities with IB. That you know you won't. But there are certainly really good universities in Britain that you can get into.
And maybe just to add to that, Mr. Smith, that with the US universities, you're absolutely right. They do prefer a broader offering of academics. Certainly on some of the things I've had to do, we actually send them the grade 10 results as well, just to show the breadth of what they've studied as well. And in many of the US universities and Canadian universities for that matter, the people who go in with A levels actually usually get first year credits for those, because they tend to be at a level higher than what the US universities are expecting. So it's actually it's a bonus for the US rather than an entry requirement.
I've just pulled up a long list of international universities that accept both the NSC and obviously A levels, and they're equally long. So we're happy to share those with parents, you know, all the way from the UK, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Cyprus, France, Dubai, Mauritius, everywhere. So it's all over the world that they accept and recognize the National Senior Certificate.
Yeah, now, as I said, I mean, they're not mutually exclusive in any way. You can go to an overseas university with the IEB, you can go to a South African university with A levels. There's nothing stopping you either way, really. I think it's just the smoother process with the A levels overseas and the easier process with the IEB in South Africa, put it very simply.
Mr. Crease, there was a question about SATs.
Yes, I've just seen that question. Is it possible to do SATs while doing A levels? SATs are completely separate. They're not a school leaving certificate as such. You don't study for SATs over a period of 2 years. SATs are a single test that you do on one day. And we do offer them here at college now. So you can write your SATs here, but that's a one-off. You can do it more than once if you want to, just to get a better score. But that's got nothing to do with the school leaving certificate. That is a university entry test, very similar to the NBTs in South Africa, I suppose. The SATs are, of course, recognized further than just the US, but they're mainly for United States universities. I just want to see if there anyone. Mr. Smith, there's a question here about, can you clarify your last statement? Did he say that taking IEB would rule out going to Oxford and Cambridge or US Ivy League schools?
Certainly Oxford and Cambridge. I mean, I don't think that they would sort of start considering IEB matrics. I'm afraid to say the Ivy League universities. I mean, you know, Frans van Hoek got into Brown with an IEB matric. And so, you know, that might be more possible, but I'm afraid I'm pretty sure that for Oxford and Cambridge, there were boys. I remember that Michael Houghton once getting an interview for Cambridge for engineering, but he didn't get in, and so the A levels just up your chances considerably to get into Oxford and Cambridge particularly. So, you know, we have a lot of children go to Oxford and Cambridge for postgraduate work with the Rhodes Scholarship or the Douglas Smith Scholarship and things like that, but not for the initial degree. To get in for an initial degree is pretty tough. And as I say, there's plenty of, you know, British children, you know, knocking on the door.
There's a couple more questions about SATs here. Can we have a webinar about SATs? I'm sure we can do something to explain them if they need further explanation. Can you write SATs in IEB? Again, SATs have got nothing to do with IEB or A levels. They're a completely separate thing. I can certainly send out some advice on SATs if anyone is interested. Essentially, it involves doing some studying. There's online courses for preparing for SATs. There are books that you can buy for preparing for SATs. They all involve practicing past SAT questions. It's made up of an English section and a maths section. They've got rid of the subject tests now, so that's really all there is. There's also an optional essay that you can do. Some universities in the US want to see an essay for particular faculties, I think. Yes, I mean, the SAT is something that's really not related to which school leaving certificate you're doing. It's much more of a university entrance test. But I will send out more information for those who are interested in that. Right, we are at the bottom of the questions list. Just give it another moment if anyone else wants to ask any questions. All right, I think that looks like it's it. Please feel free to contact me if you have any more questions about the A levels. Please fill in the survey, whether you're planning to do A levels or not. That just gives us more idea of who and what to plan for the A level program next year. So please do fill in the survey regardless. The link is on the email that I sent out earlier this week. And as I say, please feel free to contact me with any questions about A levels. I'm very happy to answer them. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening.